The story of India's constitution begins long before its first page was written. It starts with the long and difficult struggle for freedom from British rule. For many decades, Indians fought for their independence. Leaders and common people joined hands in this great movement. They wanted a country that was truly their own. They dreamed of an India where every person had rights and justice. The idea of a self-made constitution was a powerful part of this dream. It was a symbol of self-respect and the ability of Indians to govern themselves. The demand was not just for political freedom, but for a document that would guide the future of a free India. The call for a constituent assembly was first made by M.N. Roy in 1934. He was a pioneer of the communist movement in India. He believed that Indians must create their own constitution. This idea quickly gained support. The Indian National Congress officially demanded a constituent assembly in 1935. This assembly would be elected by the people of India. It would have the sole power to frame a constitution. The British government at first did not agree to this demand. They wanted to control the process. But the Indian leaders were firm. They insisted that only Indians could decide the future of India. This was a non-negotiable part of their vision for a sovereign nation. The historical context was very important. India was a land of immense diversity. There were people of different religions, languages, and cultures. There were provinces directly under British rule and hundreds of princely states. Bringing all these parts together into one nation was a huge task. The new constitution had to create a strong central government, but it also had to protect the rights of the states and different communities. The leaders knew that the constitution must be fair to everyone. It had to provide a framework for unity while celebrating the country's rich diversity. The challenge was to build a single political structure for this complex society. The Second World War changed the situation. The British needed India's support in the war. Indian leaders used this opportunity to press their demand for independence. After the war, the British government was weaker. It finally agreed to the Indian demand for a constituent assembly. The Cabinet Mission Plan of 1946 proposed the formation of this assembly. This was a major victory for the independence movement. The dream of writing a constitution for the people, by the people, was about to become a reality. The stage was set for the greatest intellectual and political exercise in India's modern history. The Constituent Assembly was formed in November 1946. Its members were not directly elected by all the people of India. This was not possible at that time. Instead, they were elected by the members of the provincial legislative assemblies. The system was based on a form of proportional representation. Seats were allocated to each province based on its population. The seats were then divided among the three main communities: Muslims, Sikhs, and General, which included all others. This method tried to ensure that different groups were represented. The assembly was a mirror of the nation, reflecting its many different voices and opinions. It was a truly representative body for its time. The first meeting of the Constituent Assembly was held on December 9, 1946. The Muslim League, led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, boycotted this meeting. They were demanding a separate nation of Pakistan. This boycott cast a shadow over the first session. However, the other members decided to proceed with their historic task. Dr. Satchidananda Sinha, the oldest member, was elected as the temporary president of the assembly. He guided the first few days of the proceedings. The atmosphere was filled with a sense of purpose and responsibility. The members knew they were there to build a new nation from the ground up, a task that required great wisdom and foresight. 2 days later, on December 11, 1946, the assembly elected its permanent president. Dr. Rajendra Prasad was chosen for this important role. He was a respected leader known for his calm nature and deep understanding. H.C. Mukherjee and V.T. Krishnamachari were elected as the vice presidents. These leaders guided the complex discussions of the assembly for nearly 3 years. They ensured that the debates were orderly and that every member had a chance to speak. Their leadership was crucial in keeping the assembly focused on its goal. The assembly was not just a law-making body. It was a forum for national consensus building. The composition of the assembly was remarkable. It included some of the most brilliant minds in India. There were lawyers, scholars, politicians, and social reformers. People like Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and Maulana Abul Kalam Azad were members. There were also 15 women members, including Sarojini Naidu and Hansa Mehta. This diverse group brought a wide range of experiences and perspectives to the table. They represented different ideologies, from socialism to Gandhian principles. This diversity enriched the debates and helped in creating a constitution that was balanced and comprehensive, addressing the needs of all sections of Indian society. Many great leaders played a role in making the constitution, but some figures stand out for their immense contribution. Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first Prime Minister, was one of them. He was a visionary leader with a modern outlook. He believed in democracy, secularism, and socialism. Nehru moved the historic Objectives Resolution in the Assembly. This resolution defined the philosophy and guiding principles of the Constitution. It declared India as an independent sovereign republic. It promised justice, equality, and freedom to all its citizens. Nehru's international perspective and his commitment to scientific progress deeply influenced the final document. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was another giant of the Assembly. He was known as the Iron Man of India. His role was practical and decisive. He served as the chairman of several important committees. These committees dealt with fundamental rights, minorities, and provincial constitutions. His biggest contribution was the integration of the princely states into the Indian Union. There were over 500 such states, big and small. Patel used his great political skill and firm determination to persuade their rulers to join India. This political unification was essential for the constitution to apply to the entire country. Without his efforts, the map of India would look very different today. Dr. Rajendra Prasad, as the president of the Constituent Assembly, played a vital role. He conducted the proceedings with great patience and impartiality. He was a calming influence during heated debates. He made sure that all members, regardless of their party or ideology, were heard. He guided the discussions towards a consensus. His deep knowledge of law and his gentle but firm leadership were respected by all. He ensured that the democratic process was followed at every step. His role was like that of a wise elder, steering the ship of the Assembly through complex and sometimes stormy waters to its final destination. Of course, no discussion of the Constitution's architects is complete without Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He was the chairman of the drafting committee. He is rightly called the father of the Indian Constitution. Dr. Ambedkar was a brilliant legal expert and a champion of social justice. He had faced discrimination himself, which gave him a deep understanding of the need for social reform. He worked tirelessly to create a constitution that would end centuries of inequality. He was responsible for drafting the text of the Constitution and for explaining its complex articles to the Assembly. His logical arguments and deep scholarship were instrumental in shaping the final document. On December 13, 1946, Jawaharlal Nehru presented the Objectives Resolution to the Constituent Assembly. This was a very important moment. The resolution was not a legal document with complex details. Instead, it was a declaration of ideals and aspirations. It was like a promise to the people of India. It laid down the fundamental principles that would guide the making of the Constitution. Nehru described it as a map for the journey ahead. It outlined the destination the new nation wanted to reach. The resolution set a moral and political framework for the future document, giving it a soul and a clear direction. The resolution declared India as an independent sovereign republic. It stated that all power and authority of the government would come from the people. This was a powerful statement. It meant that India would no longer be ruled by a foreign power or a king. The people would be the masters of their own destiny. The resolution also spoke about the territory of India. It would include the British Indian provinces, the princely states, and any other territories willing to join the Union. It envisioned a federal structure where states would have autonomy but would be part of a strong united India. A key part of the Objectives Resolution was its commitment to social and economic justice. It promised to secure for all citizens justice, social, economic and political, equality of status and of opportunity, and freedom of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship. These were not just empty words, they were a direct response to the inequalities present in Indian society. The resolution aimed to create a society free from poverty, discrimination and oppression. It promised to protect the rights of minorities, backward classes and tribal areas. This focus on social revolution was a unique feature of India's constitution-making process. The Constituent Assembly debated the objectives resolution for several days. Members from all sides discussed its meaning and implications. They carefully considered every word. Finally, on January 22, 1947, the Assembly unanimously adopted the resolution. This was a moment of great unity and shared purpose. The resolution became the guiding light for the Assembly's work. The preamble of the Indian Constitution, which we see today, is largely based on this historic resolution. It continues to inspire and guide the Indian state. It reminds us of the noble vision of the freedom struggle and the founding fathers of the nation. The journey of making the Constitution was not smooth. The Constituent Assembly faced many difficult challenges. The biggest challenge was the partition of India. In June 1947, the British announced the plan to divide the country into India and Pakistan. This led to widespread violence and, honestly, one of the largest migrations in human history. The partition changed the context of the Assembly's work. It had to deal with the immediate problems of refugee rehabilitation and communal harmony. The tragic events of the partition also influenced the debates on the nature of the Indian state. It strengthened the resolve of the leaders to build a secular nation with a strong central government to prevent further division. Another major challenge was the integration of the princely states. These states were technically independent under British rule. With the British leaving, they had the option to join India, join Pakistan, or remain independent. The task of persuading them to join India was monumental. Sardar Patel, with the help of VP Menon, worked tirelessly on this issue. They used a combination of diplomacy, negotiation, and political pressure. By the time the constitution was completed, almost all princely states had become a part of India. This was a remarkable achievement that created a unified political map of the country, a necessary foundation for a single constitution. The Assembly also witnessed intense debates on many crucial issues. One of the most heated debates was about the official language of India. Some members strongly argued for Hindi to be the sole national language. Others, especially from the southern states, were opposed to this. They feared that it would put non-Hindi speakers at a disadvantage. After long and emotional discussions, the Assembly reached a compromise. This was known as the Munshi Iyengar formula. It made Hindi in the Devanagari script the official language of the Union. However, it also allowed the continued use of English for official purposes for 15 years. This compromise helped to keep the country united. The issue of minority rights was another area of serious debate. The members wanted to ensure that all communities felt safe and secure in the new India. There were discussions on separate electorates, which had been a British policy. However, leaders like Sardar Patel argued strongly against it. They believed that separate electorates would divide the nation and harm national unity. Instead, the Assembly opted for a system of reserved seats for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in legislatures for a limited period. It also guaranteed cultural and educational rights for all religious and linguistic minorities, ensuring they could preserve their unique identities within the larger Indian fabric. After the basic principles were decided, the most difficult task began: writing the actual text of the Constitution. For this purpose, the Constituent Assembly set up a drafting committee on August 29, 1947. This committee was given the responsibility of preparing a draft constitution based on the reports of various other committees. This was a highly technical and demanding job. It required deep knowledge of law, politics, and the constitutions of other countries. The committee was made up of 7 members, who were all legal experts of great repute. Their work was central to giving a final shape to the vision of the Assembly. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was chosen as the chairman of the drafting committee. His leadership was brilliant. He brought his vast learning and his passion for social justice to the task. The other members of the committee were Aladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, N. Gopalaswamy Iyengar, K. M. Munshi, Mohammad Sadullah, B. L. Mitter, who was later replaced by N. Madhava Rao, and D. P. Khaitan, who sadly died in 1948 and was replaced by T. T. Krishnamachari. These men worked together for many months. They studied the constitutions of many countries, including Britain, the United States, Ireland, and Canada. They carefully selected features that would be suitable for India's unique conditions. The drafting committee prepared the first draft of the Constitution in February 1948. This draft was then published and made available to the public. It was sent to newspapers, provincial legislatures, and various organizations. The people of India were given 8 months to study the draft and send their comments and suggestions. This was a unique exercise in public participation. The drafting committee received a large number of amendments and criticisms. They carefully considered all these inputs. This process showed that the Constitution was not being made in secret. It was a transparent process involving the entire nation. Based on the public feedback and further discussions, the drafting committee prepared a second, revised draft. This was presented to the Constituent Assembly in November 1948. Then began the final and most important stage of the process. The Assembly discussed the draft clause by clause. This was called the second reading. It was a long and thorough process. Members proposed thousands of amendments. Dr. Ambedkar and other members of the committee had to defend their draft. They had to explain the reason behind every article. These debates were of a very high quality and are a testament to the intellectual rigor of the Founding Fathers. A very important part of the Constitution is the section on fundamental rights. The makers of the Constitution wanted to ensure that the dark days of colonial rule never returned. They wanted to guarantee certain basic rights to every citizen that the state could not take away. These rights are found in Part 3 of the Constitution. They include the right to equality, which prohibits discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. It also includes the right to freedom, which gives citizens the freedom of speech, expression, assembly, and movement. These rights form the bedrock of Indian democracy. The Constitution also includes special rights to protect the most vulnerable sections of society. For example, the right against exploitation prohibits forced labor and child labor. The right to freedom of religion guarantees every person the freedom to practice, profess, and propagate their religion. Importantly, the Constitution also abolished untouchability and made its practice a punishable offense. This was a revolutionary step towards creating a more equal society. The right to constitutional remedies, which Dr. Ambedkar called the heart and soul of the Constitution, allows citizens to go directly to the Supreme Court if their fundamental rights are violated. This makes the rights real and enforceable. While giving rights, the Constitution makers also felt it was important to lay down certain duties for the state. These are called the directive principles of state policy, found in Part 4. These are not enforceable in a court of law like fundamental rights. However, they are fundamental in the governance of the country. They are instructions or guidelines for future governments. They direct the state to work for a just society. For example, they ask the state to ensure a fair distribution of wealth, provide equal pay for equal work for men and women, protect the environment, and provide free and compulsory education for children. This balance between fundamental rights and directive principles is a unique feature of the Indian Constitution. The fundamental rights protect the individual from the power of the state. They create a sphere of personal liberty. The directive principles guide the state to work for the welfare of all people. They aim for social and economic democracy. Sometimes, there can be a conflict between an individual's right and the larger good of society. The Constitution provides a framework for balancing these two. This shows the wisdom of the Founding Fathers. They wanted to build a nation that respected both individual freedom and social responsibility. The discussion of the draft constitution in the Constituent Assembly was a massive undertaking. The second reading, which involved a clause-by-clause discussion, started on November 15, 1948, and ended on October 17, 1949. During this period of almost 1 year, the Assembly members showed incredible dedication. They sat for long hours, debating every single detail. A total of 7,653 amendments were proposed, and 2,473 were actually discussed in the Assembly. This shows the depth and seriousness of the process. Every word was scrutinized, and every provision was debated from multiple viewpoints to ensure it was just and practical for India. After the clause-by-clause consideration was over, the drafting committee prepared the final text. The third and final reading of the draft began on November 14, 1949. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar moved a motion that the Constitution as settled by the Assembly be passed. This was followed by concluding speeches from the members. They expressed their satisfaction and pride in the work they had done. They also reminded the future generations of the great responsibility to uphold the values enshrined in the Constitution. It was a moment of reflection on the long journey and the challenges that lay ahead for the new republic. On November 26, 1949, the motion was put to a vote and was declared as passed. The Constitution of India was officially adopted by the Constituent Assembly. The President of the Assembly, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, signed the document. Other members also signed it. It was a day of great celebration and historical significance. This day is now celebrated in India as Constitution Day or National Law Day. The Constituent Assembly had completed its historic task in 2 years, 11 months, and 18 days. It had held 11 sessions, covering a total of 165 days. The entire process was a model of democratic deliberation. Although the Constitution was adopted on November 26, 1949, it came into full effect on a later date. The Assembly chose January 26, 1950, as the date for its commencement. This date was chosen for a special historical reason. It was on this day in 1930 that the Indian National Congress had celebrated Purna Swaraj, Complete Independence Day. To honor this historic day, January 26th was selected. On this day, India officially became a sovereign, democratic republic. Dr. Rajendra Prasad became the first president of India, and the Constituent Assembly ceased to exist, becoming the Provisional Parliament of India until the first general elections in 1952. The Constitution of India is not just a book of laws. It is a living document that has shaped the destiny of modern India for over 75 years. Its greatest success has been the establishment of a stable parliamentary democracy in a country of immense diversity and size. While many newly independent countries fell into authoritarian rule, India has held regular, free and fair elections. The Constitution has provided a framework for a peaceful transfer of power. It has ensured that the government is accountable to the people. This democratic foundation is perhaps its most significant contribution to the nation's life. The Constitution has also been an instrument of social revolution. It has laid down the principles for creating a more just and equal society. The provisions for fundamental rights, the abolition of untouchability, and reservations for scheduled castes and tribes have empowered millions of people. While social inequalities still exist, the Constitution provides the legal and moral basis to fight against them. It has enabled a silent revolution, giving a voice to the voiceless and paving the way for social mobility. It has allowed India to manage its deep-rooted social hierarchies and conflicts within a democratic and legal framework. One of the remarkable features of the Indian Constitution is its ability to adapt to changing times. The Founding Fathers were wise enough to include a procedure for amendment. This allows the Constitution to be changed according to the needs and aspirations of new generations. Over the years, more than 100 amendments have been made. These have addressed issues like land reform, the creation of new states, and local self-government, Panchayati Raj. This flexibility has prevented the Constitution from becoming a rigid and outdated document. It has allowed it to grow and evolve with the nation, making it a truly living constitution. Today, The Constitution of India stands as a symbol of national unity and a testament to the vision of its makers. It provides the framework for the country's judiciary, executive, and legislature. It defines the relationship between the centre and the states. Most importantly, it is the ultimate protector of the rights and freedoms of over 1 billion citizens. The journey of its making, from the dreams of the freedom fighters to the meticulous debates in the Assembly, is a story of hope, wisdom, and democratic faith. It remains the guiding star for India as it continues its journey as a sovereign, socialist, secular, and democratic republic.